What is going on, guys? This is D-Rob0112 coming back with another episode, and today we are going to be talking about the possibility of Zion Williamson coming to Detroit. There's a lot of people that think that this would be a terrible idea. This is going to be a breakdown of if we should make the trade, what we would be giving up, what he would provide for Detroit, and the positives and negatives of making this happen. So without further ado, let's get started. So real quick, Zion Williamson, number one pick in, was it 2019? Yeah, it was 2019. Number one pick in 2019, he was ahead of Ja Morant, Darius Garland, guys like that. He struggled ever since he got to the league. He's been struggling with injuries, and that's really been his only downfall since he's come to the NBA. And of course, that is the worst possible struggle because the best ability is availability. Last year, he got the nod for the All-Star start, and then after the All-Star break, that's when he really, got hurt. People were starting to really have their doubts. Now, throughout the rest of the season, the Pelicans struggled. They were one of the most dominating teams in the NBA, number one seed in the West, looked at to be as one of the biggest threats in the West. And then he got hurt, and then they started losing like 12 of the last 13 games. Their chemistry was off. Ingram was the only one there. And then towards the playoffs, that's when they announced that he might be coming back for the play-in so that he could play against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He ended up saying that he felt healthy and ready to play, but he wasn't mentally ready to play. So they did not put him in. Took the risk of playing this game and hoping that they would advance and then he'll be ready by the first round of the playoffs. He ended up not playing. They ended up losing in a nail biter to the Thunder. And then that's when all the doubts and the frustrations from both New Orleans fans, the NBA, all that. Coming out of high school, he was considered to be one of the most intriguing prospects since LeBron. And I know we say that close to every year, every other year. After that, it was Cade. The year after, it wasn't really, Anthony Edwards really wasn't hyped up like that. Like, he was projected to be number one, but he wasn't considered to be like one of the best to ever play, even though that's his mindset. But Cade, he was looked at as one of the most complete prospects since LeBron. Last year, Paolo Banchero was the number one pick. There wasn't a clear-cut number one pick. It was supposed to be Jabari Smith for weeks. Ended up being Paolo. Paolo ended up having one of the best rookie seasons and very slept on. But this year, of course, that prospect is Victor Wembanyama. So we're going to see how that turns out. But Zion, so far, talent-wise, when he's on the court, has lived up to the hype. Last year, he was averaging 26 and 7 on 62% of field goal percentage, and he could space the floor a little bit, shoot the three. So really, it's only been about his injury concerns. Not even concerns, it's literally happening. Like, he has not been playing on the floor, and that is the most frustrating part about it because he can be one of, if not the best player in the NBA. You could understand that frustration, but that's exactly why the New Orleans Pelicans have made it clear that they don't really want to trade him, but they will if they need to try to improve it and get better prospects for them. Which, I mean, honestly, I think would be a pretty good idea if you really think about the fact that they could get a major haul for him still, even though it won't live up to the hype of what he can provide if he is consistently healthy, but they can definitely improve the team to build around Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. And that looks like the move that they're trying to continue with. Now let's talk about the Pistons for a second. So the Pistons, the past two drafts have gotten the consensus best player in the draft, which was a point guard, and the consensus best guard in the draft the very next year in Jaden Ivey. And Cade, like we said, looked at as generational. Ivey was considered to be the next Ja Morant, Russell Westbrook, one of those athletic, exciting guards in the game that's a high flyer and can energize any team. And that's exactly what we saw this year. Both Cade and Ivey in the months of March in their rookie years were averaging like 23 and 24 points a game. We haven't really seen Cade and Ivey on the court together as much, but there's no doubt in my mind that I think they can make it work eventually. But, Cade only played 12 games this year, averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and then was out for the year after he got the surgery. And let me just say, I know there are also concerns about Cade being injured all the time. He's not injured all the time. The only reason that people are thinking that he's injured all the time is because, one, he started off his career with an injury for the first 5 games. He was out the first 5 games, and then he came back, and he was perfectly fine. This year, and I'm pretty sure they also shut him down the next year because they were trying to tank, they were trying to get the best odds possible for either Chet Holmgren, Paolo, or somebody. I'm not sure who they would have taken if they actually won the lottery, but they were the second worst team. The very next year, got the 5th pick, got Jaden Ivey. Ivey struggled a little bit in the beginning, but picked it up and clearly improved. His work ethic is one of the craziest I've seen at his age, and he's determined to be great. So I absolutely love that Cade and Ivey are going to be one of the best backcourt duos in the league one day. Without Cade, they ended up having the worst record in the NBA by far. Looked absolutely horrible. Played the last 23 games, they only won like 2 games. And honestly, like, the only thing you could really watch for was to see how well our young guys were developing. Also, another player that we don't really talk about as much is Jalen Duren, who could have easily been first team all rookie if he got the minutes. He only had like 24 minutes a game in his rookie year, sharing minutes with guys like Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, Isaiah Stewart. And they weren't really giving him the keys yet. Well, not the keys, of course, but they didn't give him a bigger role on the offense. I mean, he was the youngest player in the NBA. He still is one of the youngest players in the NBA, and he will be younger than lots of rookies coming in. And he's already one of the most feared, dominating big men in the game already. Like, he's not one of the best, but he is one of the strongest and will be able to play his role really well once like his time comes. And Monty Williams just said the other day with this hire that he looks at Jalen Duren as a guy that can easily end up becoming a top 10 player in the league. So what that tells me is he's going to get a huge jump in the minutes. And I'm hoping that since he had like 23 minutes per game, I'm hoping he could get to around the 30 range this year. As a 19-year-old, that would be absolutely major. He said that before the draft that he wanted to come to Detroit. That was like the place that he fell in love with. And having a lob threat, like Cade really didn't get to enjoy exactly what Ivy got to enjoy with Duren. And that's one of the things that I'm like really excited for. So I think Cade with Ivy and Duren are absolutely going to take over the league at some point. Now, with that being said, they have the 5th pick now. They had the worst record, but they got the worst possible odds in the draft. At number 5, you're not really going to get one of those guys that's like going to absolutely turn this franchise around. I don't think there's a rookie of the year candidate at number 5. You could get guys like Taylor Hendricks, Cam Whitmore, Asur Thompson, those types of guys. So, and Jarris Walker. But in this scenario, with Zion being on the trade block, ESPN came out with a hypothetical trade proposal in a scenario where the Pistons get Zion Williamson. And this is a very interesting scenario. So this is a 3-team trade between the Pistons, Pelicans, and Hornets. The Pelicans will be getting the 2nd overall pick, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Stewart. The Hornets would get the 5th and 14th picks of Thursday's draft, and the Pistons get Zion Williamson only. Now, in this scenario, I can only see a team like the Hornets being the losers, and the only reason they would be the loser in this scenario is because they wouldn't get a guy like Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. But at the same time, they already have the 2nd overall pick and said that they are leaning towards Brandon Miller than Scoot Henderson. So that's not even like a concern whether like if they want to trade for the opportunity to get Scoot Henderson. They already have LaMelo, and then if they do this, they can get whoever they like at number 5, and they have the last pick in the lottery. And you could do a couple things with that. You could trade for a player, you could get a veteran, or you could just use the pick and get maybe like another wing that could possibly help LaMelo. Yeah, you would probably just draft a couple players to help build the core around LaMelo. And LaMelo, he's been dealing with injuries too, but I think he's due to like really show why he was picked at number 3 in the 2020 draft. On the Pelicans end, they would be getting the 2nd overall pick, and which they are guaranteed to use that on Scoot Henderson. They would get Bojan Bogdanovic, a player that averaged like 20 points a game when healthy for the Pistons, and Isaiah Stewart, who is one of the more intriguing big men in our league because he does all the work that does not show up on the stat sheet. He hustles, he guards the 1 through 5, he can switch. He's one of the best switching big men in the league. He's an energizer that we absolutely love in Detroit. So that would probably be the only negative to this. Now on the Pistons end, we already know that Cade at his potential could end up being one of the best players in the league, if not the best. He was putting up numbers in March like of rookies that have never done that since Michael Jordan. I'm not comparing him to Jordan. I'm just saying like at his rate, he's going to be able to be a problem. So with Ivy was averaging 24 points a game in the month of March, and nobody was talking about it because they lost almost every single game when he was doing that. I don't even blame him. And honestly, like it was still concerning too. But at the same time, I think the Pistons, of course, we could just like keep playing and still tank for Wembanyama. I think they took it like we may as well actually like try to tank for Wembanyama because we were absolutely pitiful all those weeks, and it was really hard to watch. I wanted to watch because of Ivy and Duren, but it was so disgusting to watch. And I think this team would end up being a ton better with Cade coming back and adding his, I don't know, I'm projecting him to average around 25 points a game with like six rebounds, 7 assists. I'm projecting that because him with Ivy, both of their work ethics, they're going to be able to work it out because they're really hype, especially with Monty Monty Williams. And in that .5 offense, I think they're going to absolutely strive. But let's talk about what would happen if Zion gets put into this lineup. So Zion is clearly not happy in New Orleans, and he has been injury prone throughout his career. But this man was projected to be the next LeBron, and at age 23 was averaging and was considered one of the best players in the game when he was playing. And New Orleans absolutely loved when he did play. The problem is he just doesn't play. But if you get Zion with the 5th pick, a 33-year-old small forward that is still balling, but just doesn't fit our timeline, and a backup power forward, I feel like you just have no choice but to pull the trigger, especially in Detroit. Now, the thing is, if you're giving up those 2 players and the 5th overall pick, which, I mean, in our situation, the pick probably would not be, the pick could be Cam Whitmore. So hypothetically, the 5th pick is Cam Whitmore. We're not talking about the 5th overall pick. We're talking about Cam Whitmore, okay? Because I think if Charlotte did get the 5th pick, they would use it on him too. And the Pistons would probably use it on him too, or Sir Thompson. Either way. So Cam Whitmore, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Stewart for Zion Williamson. If you do not think that that is a godly upgrade to this team, I just do not know what to tell you. Because you're only giving up 1 first-round pick, and that's probably the only, like, extremely valuable thing in this trade that you're giving up. And on top of that, you already have the rest of your roster pretty much, like, balanced out. Caden Ivey, the best 2 young guards in the game, 2 of the best young guards in the game. You're adding Zion, who could easily be the best power forward in the league. Jalen Duren, who has the potential to be a top center in the league once Embiid and Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, guys like that. When he's going to be able to compete at their level, he may not be able to shoot and space the floor, but he does everything so well that it makes up for it. Another thing about adding Zion is the playmaking possibilities for Caden Ivey. We already know they both were struggling when it came to sloppy turnovers in the rookie years, but guess what? They're rookies, so that's going to happen. But if you give them a lob threat like Zion, and then on top of that they still have another extreme lob threat in Duren, you're basically creating a young Lob City Clippers roster again. Remember, Lob City consisted of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. Those were the 3 headliners. Zion, I think if he stays healthy, he would be better than Blake in his prime. Absolutely. But Jalen Duren, I think, could end up being a lot better than what DeAndre Jordan was. And then Chris Paul, top 7 point guard of all time. So, we're not going to set that bar for Caden Ivey. But Cade has the potential to be one of the best players in the league. With that potential, imagine what they can do knowing that you have 4 absolutely deadly threats on offense. You have 3 or 4 guys that could average 25 points per game if they were the number 1 option. Cade can, Ivy can, Duren, depending on what the team is, absolutely can if they decide to feed the post to him. And of course, Zion, who's already averaging the 26 and 7 as a power forward. Your team is destined to be dominating the East right now as we speak, because who knows exactly what Cade's potential is for next season. Like, he's coming back, he's healthy. He's got a lot of time. I would not play him in the summer league. I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't even play it. No, I'd play Ivy. I'd play Ivy a little bit, but I wouldn't want him to get more than 25 minutes a game. But lots of people are saying that this would be a very bad thing because he's injury prone. And they're like, okay, when is he healthy? He had to be healthy a majority of the season in order to be known as an all-star starter. That's all I'm going to say. Because people forgot exactly how he was dominating the game when he was healthy. And it's because of the recency bias. I will admit, the injuries scare me too. I think it scares everybody. But who knows if whoever you get with the 5th overall pick is going to be even half as good as Zion. And who knows if he's going to get injured. Zion wasn't injury prone coming out of college. Anybody could end up being injury prone. But also, it's about the mindset. I know he didn't want to play for New Orleans when the time mattered, but that's the reason to get him out of New Orleans. It would be key for them to just let him go, start over. If he keeps getting injured in New Orleans, he clearly doesn't want to be there. So who knows if either he's actually getting hurt or he just really is unhappy there. So yes, it would be painful to give a top 5 pick and then 2 players that you absolutely love in Detroit to New Orleans. However, when we have Zion, it's going to be so exciting that you're going to completely forget what we even gave up. Whatever we gave up is not going to be worth it. Yes, New Orleans does get the number 2 pick, but we're not giving that up. We're giving up number 5. That's like, there's no clear-cut number 5 pick. We could easily draft a huge bust at this pick and a guy that could possibly be irrelevant after 3 years. Zion's not going away until the end of his career. Like, he's just that good. And I think we have to take advantage of the one time that a generation generational prospect is on the trade block for the 5th overall pick. You have to take that risk. Scared franchises don't go anywhere. If you keep the 5th overall pick, Bojan and Isaiah Stewart, a successful season keeping the same exact situation is a play-in, and if you make the playoffs. In the Eastern Conference, we are the clear-cut favorites if we get Zion. And depending on who we match up in the finals, we could beat whoever is that, if you really think about it. Maybe not this year. They probably have to have like another year under their belt to like really get situated, and the chemistry has to get a little bit better for Jay Ivey and Cade Cunningham and the rest of the team. But with a coach like Monty Williams, who led the Suns to the finals with old Chris Paul and of course Devin Booker. But imagine how Monty's going to use the system with an actual center that loves to really be a center. He literally told DeAndre Ayton that he gave up on him, and I know like lots of people are probably not thinking about that when he literally said he gave up on him, but Zion also gave up on his team. He would be a lot happier in Detroit. Cade and Ivy would dominate. He would dominate. Duren would dominate. And who knows what else you could get in this situation. Because another move that you could possibly get is if you clear up a little bit of cap space, you could still get one of the most talked about free agents that the Pistons are targeting. And that's former Phoenix Sun and Brooklyn Nets current player, Cam Johnson. And Cam Johnson is a small forward, like 26 or 27 years old. He's probably going to get around $20 million per year in his next contract. But that is a guy that would make Monty Williams absolutely love coaching here. On top of that, a starting lineup of Cade, Ivy, Cam Johnson, Zion, and Jalen Duren. That's one of the best young cores in the NBA, if not the best. I think after the draft, OKC will probably be around that level because, they got Shea, Giddey, Chet, Jalen Williams, and probably whoever they draft at pick 12, or if they trade up and get another starting power forward. But you know what else is going to happen other than team success? LCA is absolutely going to be rocking. We have had terrible attendance. We can easily become one of the craziest worst to first stories of all time. Literally worst to first. What team is going to be competing with two of the best guards in the game, the best power forward, one of the best young centers in the game, and then Cam Johnson, who doesn't need to be a complete scorer. They could honestly do more with that. But in conclusion, I really think this would be a no-brainer to do in Detroit, because if you don't do it, whoever trades for Zion, you're going to completely regret the fact that we did not do it. I don't think people are realizing that the odds for the 5th overall pick panning out to be like more valuable than Bojan and Stewart, the odds of that actually working out and being a better scenario is close to none. Zion is a player that he's getting paid. His contract is worth like $94 million. Not $94 million, $194 million. So that is a big salary cap hit. However, I think this roster is ready to like start building. There's no more tanking. So you may as well try to actually win. This is the perfect scenario. Zion is 23 years old, doing what he did. And the only reason people were not really hyping it up is because they knew that he was going to probably get injured soon, or they were like projecting it. But he would easily, this would make the Pistons not only one of the most fearful, but it's also going to be one of the most exciting. A Pistons Zion Williamson jersey with Cade, Ivy, all of them. Next to that, you just cannot beat that. In the East is completely wide open. The Eastern Conference champions were the Miami Heat, who were one game away in the play-in from being completely irrelevant right now. They said if they lose in the play-in, they were going to trade Jimmy Butler. Now that man was in finals and became an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So that just shows anybody in the East can compete when you're in the right situation. The Pistons would be the clear-cut favorites. I mean, you could probably say Milwaukee too, but I just do not see anybody else competing when everybody is healthy on this team. And you could fill out role players. Like after this year, I think they would need to target free agency next year when it comes to getting like the right role players off the bench. But there's a lot of things you can do with this scenario. You have the best coach, you'll have the best core in the league, and you got the best fans rooting behind you. So let me know what y'all think about if we should get Zion. I know quite a decent amount of people that are actually afraid of this happening, but you cannot sit here and play scared all your life. In what scenario is this ever going to happen again? And I think people are just forgetting exactly what Zion can do. And if you are forgetting it, please go watch. He's not going to be injured the entire time. All we need is for him to be healthy at the right times. He can't be getting hurt if we're one game away from the finals and then he's like, oh, dang, my back. But at the same time, I want some exciting basketball. We have not had exciting basketball in Detroit. Honestly, the 2000s. Like, it was exciting for when we had Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, but we knew that there was nothing. Like, we were just hoping to make it to the playoffs. That's it. In Detroit, we don't have much for real. I mean, of course, the Lions are on the come up. We already know that. We talk about that all the time. Not only are the Lions NFC North favorites, but they could easily be a top 3 or 4 team in the NFC. So you jumpstart that. The Lions are going to be absolutely dominating. And then you turn around and you add one of the best players in the game to one of the best cores in the game. The Lions and Pistons would be dominating the NFC and Eastern Conference for years to come. So that is my conclusion on why the Pistons should absolutely 100% go after Zion. In this scenario, I do not think the proposed trade would get it done. I think you would have to add like another future first for one of the teams. Honestly, in the ESPN proposed trade, it was pretty even all around, but I think Charlotte would probably need at least one more first round pick, and that would probably come from Detroit. But I would be completely okay with giving them like an extra, maybe like not lottery protected. I could say top 10 protected, because with Zion, Cade, and Ivy, they're not going to be top 10. So you could easily add one extra first and have it protected just in case the scenario like actually happens. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Thank you all for listening. This is DRob0112. Like and subscribe. I will talk to you all later. Peace.